Welcome back into another episode of the TPT podcast. Today, we're going to break down the most recent game for the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cleveland Browns, what took place, what players stuck out, and what players could possibly make the 53-man roster. Welcome to the TPT podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the TPT podcast. The TPT podcast.
Well, folks, the Kansas City Chiefs get it done versus the Cleveland Browns in a really good preseason game. Chiefs started out pretty slow, but they ended up getting it done versus the Cleveland Browns. A lot of things I like to see from a lot of players in this game. So I'm really excited to break down what I saw and some of my takeaways I wrote down while that game was going on. To start off really with, I always like to start off with the opposing team, and I'm going to start doing this more is the Cleveland Browns kind of are in a weird situation this year in. They have Deshaun Watson, what he's going to be, and I feel like a lot of people around the league were watching this game to see what Deshaun Watson was going to be this year. I thought he played pretty well. Our young defense, though, was getting to him. There's times he had to throw the ball away or he wasn't able to step up and throw. He had to kind of run or whatever it may be. But our young defensive line was getting to him, creating pressures, which I'm going to get to here in a second. But I really liked the way some of our young guys play versus Deshaun Watson. But I thought Deshaun Watson had a pretty good game, had some nice throws. So, yeah, that was really it for Cleveland is some of the question marks surrounding them. I think Cleveland can be an 8 to 9-win team depending on how good Deshaun Watson is this year. Because we saw Cleveland's starters for 4 drives. They were out there for 4 drives. And like I said, the Chiefs' defense was playing pretty good. And you may say, well, Jaden, why did the Cleveland Browns get off to an early lead? It was really because of the turnovers from Shane Buechele. And what I'm going to get into right now with our quarterbacks is we did not see Mahomes, but we saw Chris Oladokun. We saw Chris Oladokun. We saw Blaine Gabbert, and we saw Shane Buechele start the game. I hate to say it. I've been on the Shane Buechele hype train. I really have. I've been on the Shane Buechele hype train. And now I don't know. I don't know if Shane Buechele is that guy because now we've seen him sorry, as I adjust my phone. But now we've kind of seen him where he kind of went out there as a starter and got real reps, and he was out there for a majority of the first half. And I like Shane Buechele. I think he's really good. If something happened to Mahomes, I think he would be a good backup. I still think he can be a solid backup quarterback in this league. I just think Blaine Gabbert, with some of these throws, you see the experience. You see where, he's not going to be as athletic as Shane Buechele and move around the pocket as well as Shane Buechele. But you see the ball coming out quicker. You see the ball more on time on some of these throws. And the second interception was not on him. The second interception was not on Shane Buechele at all. So I'm not going to sit here and act like Shane Buechele turned the ball over there. He didn't. That second one, it was thrown. Cornell Powell got it, bounced off of him. The defender was able to take it the other way. But I just think Blaine Gabbert, it's like he's processing the plays a little bit quicker. I feel like he has won the number 2 job. I was leaning more Shane Buechele, but I think now it's going to be more Blaine Gabbert. I think Blaine Gabbert's the better quarterback, as he just had, again, he had a better game, and I think he's had a little bit better preseason than Shane Buechele. Shane Buechele's had some nice plays. Again, I think he will make the team. He will be on the 53-man roster. I don't think they'll suit 3 quarterbacks, but he will be on the 52-man roster because they can suit 46. So it'll be interesting to see who's the QB2, who's the QB1, because it's coming up here soon. They have to have that final cuts and that 53-man roster. So that was my thought. It's going to be Blaine Gabbert, Shane Buechele, and Chris Oladokun as your three quarterbacks behind Mahomes. You'll have Chris as being the practice squad player, Blaine being the QB2, and Shane being the QB3. That's how I think our QB depth chart is going to go. Moving on to the running backs, and room is going to shape up, is the guys I kind of saw in this game, especially, was we saw Jaron Elam have a really good game. He did. He played really well. Number 29, Jaron Elam. He had a really good game. Then you had a LaMichael Pirine. He had a phenomenal game. LaMichael Pirine did really, really good. And I think he can possibly make this roster if something happens to a guy during the week. A lot of people like Deneric Prince. I'm not on the Deneric Prince hype train. I know he's been returning punts. He's been returning kicks. And he's got some carries in the backfield. I'm not on the Deneric Prince train. I'm more on the LaMichael Pirine train. LaMichael Pirine had a very, very good game for the Chiefs this last preseason game. So did Elam, but I think it's Pirine is the guy. If something happens to our 1, 2, or 3, he's our guy that needs to be coming off the practice squad. I think he's a good receiving back. I think he can run the ball pretty well. Blocking, he hasn't done a great job in the blocking scheme for the Kansas City Chiefs on third down. He hasn't done, but that's not where his strength would be. You would have a guy like Jerick McKinnon on third down there to block for a guy like Mahomes. So I'm not too concerned about that. So that's where I think, and I think Deneric Prince, and I think Elam, they're going to go on the back of the practice squad unless they get cut. But Deneric Prince, yeah, maybe if they can kind of develop in practice on the practice squad. But I think that fourth guy, because I don't think they keep 4 running backs. I want to make that very clear. I think they keep 3 running backs. I think they keep Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards, and Pacheco. I think those are your 3 running backs. Those are going to be your 3 running backs. Okay? And then I think your starter is going to be Pacheco. He'll get most of the carries. Then you're going to have Clyde as kind of your 2, and your third down guy and your receiving back off, who had a beautiful screen, an absolutely beautiful screen in this game, was Jerick McKinnon. I think he's just a receiving back god right now. So I think he's going to do a great job just receiving the ball, pass catching for the Chiefs. I mean, I think he had 9 touchdowns. He had 6 straight 6 straight weeks with a touchdown. He was absolutely phenomenal in like November or December for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think Jerick McKinnon, he's a little bit older, but he's still going to be that great third down guy, can block very well. So I think those are your 3 running backs. You have Pacheco, Clyde, and you have Jerick McKinnon. Your 4th guy off the preseason drought, I'm going to say this again, is going to be LaMichael Pirine. You can put that in the bank. I think LaMichael Pirine will be your 4th guy off the bench. A lot of Chiefs fans are going to hate me for that because they really like Deneric Prince. But I really, truly believe it's going to be LaMichael Pirine. And then the moment we've all been waiting for, the one that everyone's been interested in, you have Ihmir Smith-Marsette. You have Cornell Powell. You have Justin Ross. You have all these guys who's made plays during the preseason. Are they going to keep 7? Are they going to keep 6? Is Justin Watson on the outside? Is even Justin Ross on the outside? So I saw this today, and shout out KC Sportsnet as they put out this graph, and they had all these receivers. They had Justin Watson, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Richie James, MVS, Rashid Rice, and Valdez-Scantling. You see how many that is? 8. Is that 8? Or on a trip? Yeah, that's 8. That's 8 people. I'm not holding up 9 or 10. That's 8. So I think they keep 8 guys, or I don't think they keep 8 guys, excuse me. I really truly believe they may keep 7. So if you're saying, well, they're going to keep 6. Who are you cutting? I'm really interested to see who you guys think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to cut this season. The guys on the outside looking in my opinion, who could be on the cuff is Justin Watson, Richie James, and Ihmir Smith-Marsette. And the most likely one is, I hate to say, because he looks great out there, and number 82 was Ihmir Smith-Marsette. He had a great preseason, but I think he's that guy on the outside looking in, because you got a guy like Justin Watson, who will be the 7th or 6th receiver, have that connection with Mahomes, scored that big touchdown versus the Chargers last year. So I think Smith-Marsette is going to be that guy on the outside looking in, and he will be put on the practice squad and probably signed elsewhere with another team, because they're honestly going to pick him up because he had a great preseason. I think in this order, it's going to go MVS at your 1. So it may shock a lot of people. Richie James at the 2. Sky Moore at the 3. I think after that, it's going to go Justin Ross at the 4. Justin Watson at the 5. Then you have Richie James and Justin Ross at the 6 and 7. That's how I think it's going to go down. And I want to say this: I love Ihmir Smith-Marsette. With that 82 on, I thought he looked like Dwayne Bell out there, leaping up and catching balls. He had a phenomenal preseason. We saw guys like Daurice Fountain go over to the Bears and play well in the preseason. He'll probably be the 5th or 6th receiver over there. We saw Smith-Marsette be on the special teams, play well in special teams. I just think Watson is going to be that 6th or 7th guy on the way out, because I don't think they cut Ross. I don't think they cut Richie Rice. Maybe, just maybe, Kadarius Toney is not ready for the first couple of games, and they put Ihmir Marsette on the 53-man roster and bring him down to the practice squad. But I just don't see him making that final roster. I don't. And I really, really do like the guy. I really do. I really want people to understand that as they're listening to this. But I think they keep 6 or 7. If they do keep 6, then it's going to really be tough. You're telling me, Jaden, they're going to actually keep 6. Then Watson, Ross, or Kadarius Toney make a cut. Richie James, I feel like, is going to be a really good receiver for the Chiefs. I don't think they cut Richie James. I really don't think they cut Richie James. I think Richie James is your deep threat and you're another gadget guy. I think MVS is your veteran. Obviously, he's going to be a deep threat, but just your veteran receiver who's going to be your number 1. Richie James is going to be your developing rookie. Sky Moore is your slot guy. Kadarius Toney is your gadget guy. And Ross, I think, can be your red zone guy this season. Watson's going to be a guy that is a plug-in player. But I think this wide receiver group is the deepest it's ever been for the Chiefs. The last 10 years, since probably 2010, 2011, when you had Steve Breston, Dwayne Bowe, Dexter McCluster, John Baldwin. And that was the deepest it's probably been in my lifetime. So I'm going to be honest. I really think they keep 7, and sadly, Smith-Marsette is gone. And that'll be your 7 wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. And now we go on to the Titans. I'm talking about the Titans just yet, folks. The tight ends. And I feel like this is an interesting one. I think 1 is a no-brainer, and everyone knows who 1 is. Travis Kelce. 2, Noah Gray. I think Noah Gray has been that guy. The thing that I found that just has been brutal is Jody Fortson got hurt. I had such high hopes for a guy who started out as a receiver on the Chiefs practice squad, came to this team and has made the team, has scored in games, has looked good the last 2 years, but just got injured. And it sucked for him as a tight end. He's got hurt this year, but I really wish I could have seen him. I feel like he's been a guy who could have been the number 2 on this team as the tight end. But right now it's going to be Noah Gray. And I feel like Noah Gray had a really good season last year when Kelsey wasn't getting open at times. Noah Gray was right there. That Chargers game, I can remember he had a really good touchdown. But I honestly think it's going to go Travis Kelsey, Noah Gray. That third one, I think it's going to be Matt Bushman. I think Matt Bushman makes it, and your fullback / tight end is going to be Blake Bell. I think he's going to kind of be our fullback. But I think they keep 4 tight ends. I think they keep 7 receivers. And you may say there's no way they keep 7 receivers and 4 tight ends. I think there's a possibility they could, but I also think there's a possibility where they just push Matt Bushman to the practice squad again. And there's going to be times where they bring him up during the season. So there's a part of me that leans more towards 3 tight ends. But either way you put it, 3 tight ends, 7 receivers, 3 running backs, 3 quarterbacks. And I think they're going to keep nine offensive linemen. Your starters being Donovan Smith, Joe Thuney, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Jawan Taylor. And all the people that have had just huge concerns about the tackles, and they're going to look terrible. And you guys can say, oh, it's preseason or whatever. Our quarterbacks have not been touched when our starting tackles are out there. You can say, oh, they sacked Blaine Gabbert, and they did this, and they did that. They did not get to our quarterbacks when our starters were in there, when Patrick was in there. Patrick Mahomes was not even getting pressured. Our tackles are going to be just fine. A lot of people say Orlando Brown into the Bengals, and now the Bengals have a top notch. I love Orlando Brown. As a Sooners guy, I love Orlando Brown. But if Donovan Smith can play how he's playing this preseason, he was our biggest concern. If Jawan Taylor can play how he's playing in the preseason, we will have a top 3 offensive line. A top 3 offensive line, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. They will have a top 3 offensive line going into 2023. So breaking down this roster, I think I mentioned some of the guys I think that are going to get cut. I think they keep the 3 quarterbacks. I think they keep 3 running backs, 7 receivers, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen. And I'm going to break down the defense. Obviously, I'm going to break down the defense on Wednesday. I'm going to tell you who I have in, who I have out. But that is who I think the final 53-man roster is going to come down to on offense. I'm going to break down special teams and the defense later. And that's going to be very interesting to see who's on special teams, who's going to be returning kicks. Another thing I want to mention about the special teams, Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker is looking good. That injury he had last year and some of the field goals he missed, let's remember he missed that big field goal versus the Bengals. Harrison Butker is back. I truly believe Harrison Butker is back. I mean, he is back. I think he looked really good. I think he'll be perfectly healthy for the season, and he's going to go back to prime Harrison Butker, and he's going to go back to be a top 3 kicker in the NFL this season. You can put it in the bank. Another thing I wanted to mention as well before we start to wrap things up here is we love to do our Around the League segment. These are some of the rookie quarterbacks. I love the quarterback position. It's a position that I love looking at. I love watching a lot. I love studying a lot. Is a quarterback position, along with a lot of people, is the quarterbacks that I think are going to make it and the quarterbacks that I think are going to need work. I don't like to call people just I think they're just going to be bust. I'm never just going to think someone's going to be a bust. But these are the quarterbacks I think that are going to make it this season, are going to be good quarterbacks. A guy I think, yes, it's going to take a little bit of time to develop, but I think he will be a good quarterback, is Anthony Richardson. I have a buddy of mine who disagrees with me, who doesn't think Anthony Richardson can be a good quarterback in this league. But I think he can. I think if he can get some of the accuracy down, he's with the right guy. Let's remember he's with the OC from Philadelphia who helped develop Jalen Hurts. Let's remember Jalen Hurts coming to the draft, everyone said he needs to switch positions. They said, oh, he needs to be a running back. He needs to move to running back, or he needs to move to receiver. He is not going to last as a quarterback in this league. And he's done just fine. He's a top 5 guy. So I think Anthony Richardson can be like a Cam Newton type guy. He just needs a little bit of development. He just needs a little bit of work on the Colts. I did not necessarily like him when he got drafted to the Colts. I thought he would have done perfect at a team like Carolina. He would have done a good at a team. Even some of these other teams that were drafting quarterbacks, even a team like Tennessee, I feel like he would have just had better coaching. Not better coaching, but just he would have been with the right people to help develop him. Because like I just said, I feel like he can develop well underneath the Colts because, again, they have the Eagles' former OC, whose name is blading me right now, but he helped, I think it's Shane Larkin, or not Shane Larkin, that's the NBA player. But I feel like he can develop one day being a good quarterback and having a good rookie year. I think he's going to run the ball a lot. They don't have a guy like Jonathan Taylor, but as long as they don't put him in a terrible situation with some of the talent they have on there, it's not looking good for the Colts. But he's still a guy I think can be a pretty good quarterback in the future. I think he can make it. A guy I'm on the fence about a lot is a guy that is Will Levis. I don't think he was very good at Kentucky. In big moments, he turned the ball over a lot, and he just wasn't very good at Kentucky. There was times where, again, there's a lot of games I thought he should have been a lot better in, and he just wasn't very good. And I didn't see much from him with the Tennessee Titans. I just didn't. I think Will Levis will be the 2, or excuse me, Malik Willis will be the 2, and Will Levis will be the 3. I don't see him kind of being a starter for the Tennessee Titans and kind of being that guy. At least right now, maybe Mike Vrabel develops him into being a guy. A lot of people compare to Josh Allen. I do not see that. I do not see that at all. A lot of people compare to Josh Allen. I don't see that. I just think his decision-making is not great, and he's got to really work on that. And again, he's on the Titans team that doesn't have a lot of talent outside of D-Hop. They have Derrick Henry and D-Hop, and outside of that, it's not a whole lot of talent. The offensive line is not very good. So I think he's going to struggle a little bit with the Tennessee Titans. Luckily, they're in that division with, again, the Colts, the Texans. The Jags will be a great team, as I mentioned in previous podcasts. But he's a guy I'm highly concerned about. I'd be highly concerned about if I was a Titans fan and if he has to start some games this season for the Tennessee Titans. And then the last 2 guys, Bryce Young. These 2 guys I think are going to be similar. I think Bryce Young is going to be a guy we look at, we say he's good. He's going to be a 2-type guy. I don't think he'll ever be a top 5 or even a top 8 guy, but he'll be solid. I think Bryce Young will be solid. I just don't know because not only is he short, he's thin. I think he needs to bulk up just a little bit, maybe gain 10 to 12 pounds because his offensive line is terrible. The Panthers' offensive line this preseason has looked atrocious, and this is versus third stringers and guys who are either going to not be in the NFL next year or going to not be on the roster. They're going to be in the practice squad. They have struggled. The starting offensive line has struggled. They've been horrible with this offensive line. So Bryce Young, again, I think he's a guy down the road can be a pretty good quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be that guy that comes in and is just an absolute killer in this league. And same with C.J. Stroud. I like C.J. Stroud. I think he has some decent weapons around him. He's got Dalton Schultz. He's got Dameon Pierce and some other guys on that roster. I think, again, it's another Ohio State guy. The Ohio State and Alabama guys always have question marks about them, what they're going to be in the NFL. Because they play at these colleges where they play with the best of the best, and then they have to come to the NFL and they have to make more plays than they do usually at those colleges. You can say, well, Jaden, they're playing in the SEC and they're playing against the best of the best. Yes, but they're also playing with the best of the best. They go in the NFL, and those guys that are the best of the best are a dime a dozen in the NFL. So then they have to go and they have to make plays. Look at Mac Jones. Look at guys like Tua. Look at guys like A.J. McCarron. Ohio State, Troy Smith. You've had some other guys that come in the league that just haven't really done anything. Even Justin Fields has some question marks about. So you've had these Ohio State guys come into the league, and they haven't been what we thought they would be because, again, they played with the best of the best, and now they get to the elite, and they have to make more plays than usual. But I think, honestly, this season it's going to go Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and then if Will Levis gets an opportunity. Guys like Stetson Bennett and Max Duggan, I don't know if they'll really get an opportunity. Maybe they get in a game. There's also a guy like Jaron Hall. But again, I don't know if those guys get in a game. I think next year there's a huge QB potential. There's going to be a lot of things where you got Caleb Williams, you have Drake May, you have Quinn Ewers, you have Joe Milton. So there's going to be a lot of guys next year coming in the league. But that was just kind of my around the league assessment. Some of the quarterbacks coming in as we go. And we'll see some of these guys during the season. I know we'll see Justin Fields. So we'll definitely see him. We'll see some of the younger guys like Trevor Lawrence. But we'll see some of these young QBs coming in. And we'll see what they got on their team. And some of them are in good situations. Some of them are. But I do know the Kansas City Chiefs are in a great situation right now. And I think they're in a great situation with their roster. A lot of people have concerns with their receiving group. But like I said, guys, this is the deepest this receiving group has ever been since I've been alive. Going even back when we won the Super Bowl with Tyreek Hill, I think this is the deepest it's ever been. I think there's a lot of guys that could break out like Justin Ross and maybe Richie Rice. I did write this down. I want to get to real quick. So I'd hate to not read off some of my notes. I know he has the drop problem. I think he's going to be a Dwayne Bowe type guy. A lot of people comparing him to Sammy Watkins. I think he's going to be a Dwayne Bowe type guy. Have the big plays, the big catches, but I think he's going to have some of the drops. And I really do believe that. I think he's going to have some of the drop problem, but I think he's going to be a Dwayne Bowe type guy. Then we have other news where, again, we have a guy like Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He played great. I thought Felix was looking really good out there this season. I think he's going to be a guy that gets to 3 to 4 sacks, kind of like a Karlaftis. But I thought he looked really good in those 4 or 5 drives with the Browns starting offensive lineman. He got to Deshaun Watson a couple times. Deshaun Watson ultimately had to throw it away. But if he can play like that versus Lions team, or again, you have a guy like Jared Goff who's not very mobile. Yes, the Lions have a better offensive line, but you have a guy like Jared Goff who is not a mobile guy. So I thought Felix Anudike-Uzomah looked pretty good. Kadarius Toney, Andy Reid said Kadarius Toney could be back at practice this week, so that's good news. I think Kadarius Toney is another guy that could be a really good, just gadget guy for us. Be a big play guy for us. I feel like there's a lot of big play potential on this Chiefs team this year. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested in what you guys think of who's going to make this roster, especially at the receiver position. Who's going to be QB2 and who's going to be in the running back positions. As we talked about the offense, we'll get into the defense next time. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what you guys think. Who's going to make this roster? Who's going to land where? For now, I will see you guys next time on the TPT Podcast.